12:35 p.m, Europe went dark. Not a flicker, not a warning, just silence. Spain, Portugal, parts of France and beyond, all paralysed in an instant. Trains ground to a halt, fuel pumps went silent, payments ceased to function. Millions of people were trapped in a modern paralysis, forced to confront a question they never thought they'd need to ask. What happens when the screen goes blank? An entire digital society was forced to realise just how vulnerable the always-on economy really is. The hum of modern life switched off. All of it in a blink. And here's a curious little footnote. Just 4 weeks before this unexpected event, the EU quietly asked its citizens to prepare 72-hour survival kits. How timely. Now, if you believe in coincidence, feel free to just click onto the next video. But if you're starting to feel like you're not being told the full story, well, welcome. We've been expecting you. Depending on your worldview, this was either an unfortunate technical glitch or a soft dress rehearsal for something far more serious. But here's the truth. It wasn't a freak incident. It was a revelation. The system isn't just fragile, it's brittle. And now we really know it. This wasn't just a blackout, this was a reveal, a moment where the fragility of the digital-first economy was exposed in broad daylight. And it wasn't a one-off. It was the inevitable result of years spent replacing stable, heavy inertia providing energy infrastructure with lightweight, variable sources that sound great on campaign posters, but they can't deliver when it matters most. Consider Germany's experience. Their aggressive push into renewable energy has led to periods of overproduction, resulting in negative electricity prices. And while this sounds beneficial on the surface, it destabilizes the grid, making it more susceptible to blackouts when renewable sources falter. Politicians have promised us a green utopia, but what we got was no electricity when it really mattered. The engineers warned them. The physics predicted it. But when it comes to the grid, it seems ideology trumps electrons. And now we are all at risk of being unplugged, and not just from the power supply, but from our own ability to just function. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The next war won't be fought with boots and bullets. It'll be fought with buttons. Buttons that shut down power grids, that corrupt data, that will kill connectivity, and with it, control. Think about that for a second. A war without battlefields, a war without soldiers, a war where the casualties are civilians with frozen bank accounts and dead SIM cards. Imagine waking up one morning to find your bank account is inaccessible, your digital assets just vanished, and your means of communication severed. This is not a scene from a dystopian novel. It's a plausible scenario in an age of cyber warfare. And when the attack comes, whether it's a hostile actor, a rogue AI virus, or just your own government tripping over its own cables, if everything you own is online, then you are not a citizen. You are a sitting duck. This isn't fear-mongering. This is geopolitics. Microsoft's 2024 Digital Defense Report confirms what the security world has whispered for years. The gloves are off. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all actively embedded inside the digital guts of Western infrastructure. And they're no longer just spying, they're prepared to break things. The West accuses Russia of launching sabotage-level cyber attacks on NATO members, targeting critical infrastructure such as power grids and communication networks. China is already positioned inside communications, energy, and water networks across the developed world, just waiting for go time. Iran's been probing systems since the Israel-Hamas broke out, seeking vulnerabilities to exploit in retaliation for perceived aggressions. And North Korea, well, they'll hack you just for the practice, funding their regime through illicit cyber activities. And because these are cyber attacks, no one needs to take the credit. No missile trails, no UN resolutions, just chaos. You won't even know where the pain is coming from, only that your money doesn't work. Your services are gone and no one's picking up the phone. Meanwhile, what are we doing in the West? We're fighting tariff wars with ourselves. This month, President Trump proudly declared Liberation Day as he slapped new tariffs on China, only to start to walk it back when the bond market revolted and trillions were wiped from global equities. Tariffs historically don't end well. Smoot-Hawley deepened the Great Depression. Nixon's 71 shock killed Bretton Woods and birthed the Great Inflation. Now it's 2025 and history's on repeat. Because this isn't just a blackout risk or a cyber risk. This is a trust collapse, political, monetary, institutional. The FT even has a new word for it, panican, someone who overreacts in a weak and stupid way. But if the markets are panicking, it's not because they're stupid, it's because they have seen what's coming. That's why central banks who rarely tweet and really aren't supposed to panic are buying gold like their credibility depends on it. This isn't diversification, it's desertion, a controlled exit from a system they no longer trust long before the public catches on. This isn't just a gold rush, it's a central bank rebellion against fiat dilution, against political interference, against vulnerability. They're building monetary bunkers, and retail investors? They're still refreshing the charts. But here's the thing about physical gold and silver. They don't blink. They don't glitch. They don't rely on servers or supply chains or solvency. They don't care about your internet connection. They just exist outside the system. And that's why we say it's time to secure the core of your wealth. Because if the next cyber attack disables your bank account, do you have anything left that's truly yours? If your broker gets hacked or your payment processor goes offline, what do? If the lights go out again, not for 5 hours, but for 5 days, what have you actually got that's going to survive? Consider the situation in Venezuela where hyperinflation and economic collapse rendered the local currency worthless. Those who held physical gold and silver were able to weather the storm. They preserved their wealth and purchasing power, while others lost everything. Gold doesn't just protect your purchasing power, it protects your autonomy. It's not about growth, it's about continuity. It's about knowing that if everything goes sideways, politically, digitally, financially, you've got something real, something unhackable, uncancelable, unhypothecated. Silver too, the sleeping sibling of the monetary metals, is still lagging, but it always does. Until it doesn't. And when it runs, it sprints. Right now, the smart move isn't trying to game the trade, it's building a position in assets that don't need permission to work. So, no, this week's blackout might have been a weird atmospheric event and it wasn't the end of the world. But it was a wake up call, a reminder that we've built a world dependent on things that break. And when they break, it won't be your portfolio you're worried about. It'll be about your access, your mobility, your choices. So secure the core of your wealth, stack the physical, and stay awake because gold doesn't panic. It just waits for the rest of the system to catch up. Now let's zoom out. According to the World Economic Forum, cybercrime could cost the global economy $10.5 trillion per year by 2025. That would make it the third largest economy in the world, behind the US and China. Except cybercrime doesn't pay tax, it doesn't stimulate demand, and it certainly doesn't run on renewables. And the WEF isn't worried about small-time hackers. They're worried about AI-powered, mutating systemic viruses, the kind that could hijack infrastructure. Transportation, healthcare, banking. Imagine a scenario where a sophisticated AI virus targets the global financial system, causing widespread chaos and disrupting the flow of capital. The consequences would be catastrophic. The Prime Minister of Albania summed it up like this: it's naive to think any one country can tackle this on its own. Translation, we're on our own. And what's the financial sector's plan A? Digitize more. Connect more. Trust that the system won't hiccup. But we've seen what a hiccup looks like just yesterday, and it's pretty terrifying. When your wealth is just numbers on a screen, when your access is one password reset away from gone, when your assets are only as good as the grid they sit on, what exactly do you own? Because the smart money isn't sitting around hoping that the lights will just stay on. It's quietly moving into those assets that don't need electricity, that don't need data or centralized trust to function. Events in the gold market, they're not just about finding a hedge. They're about a shift, a repositioning, a desertion. And while retail investors are still checking those charts, hoping for a dip, the central banks are stacking physical metal like their lives depend on it. Because maybe they do. Gold isn't just about inflation protection, it's about trust protection. It's not about yield, it's about resilience. And it's not there to outperform every year. It's there to outlive the system every year. So let's be blunt. If your wealth is 100% inside the system, the banking system, the internet, the data grid, then your exposure isn't just financial, it's existential, because the system is increasingly fragile, increasingly politicized, and increasingly prone to disruption, whether from energy mismanagement, cyberattack, or just good old-fashioned incompetence. And that's why we talk about preparing your exit, securing the core of your wealth. It's the idea that you keep some of your wealth completely off grid, no counterparty, no dependency, no plug socket required. Physical gold and silver don't care about outages. They don't get hacked. They don't rely on algorithms, and they certainly don't need 5G to hold their value. We're not saying abandon the system. We're saying prepare for it when it abandons you, because the next blackout might not be local. It might not be short, and it might not even be reported as a blackout. It might just look like banks freezing, payments failing, accounts being reviewed, and assets being reclassified. Gold is sexy because it isn't needy, because it isn't trying to be sexy. It just needs to be there when nothing else is. So no, the lights going out in Spain wasn't the end of the world, but it was a reminder that we live in a world built on assumptions. And when those assumptions flicker, the only thing left standing is what's real. Gold, silver, held by you outside the system. Secure that core of your wealth before the next glitch becomes a collapse. Because when the next blackout hits, whether caused by physics, politics, or cyber warfare, you will want to be holding something that the system cannot delete. Not a promise, not a hope, not a claim, something real. You're not crazy, you're early. And the earlier you act, the more future you can save. So why don't you download our exit plan right now? Read it, start to live it, because the world isn't going back to normal, whatever normal was. It's already moving quietly, systematically. And when the music stops, those still sitting in the digital chairs won't just lose, they won't even understand what just happened. So ready your exit before the next button gets pressed.